Most people smoke weed to relax, to chill out, melt into the couch, and slow the whole world down for a little while. But there's one legendary strain that's famous for doing the complete opposite. Instead of knocking you out and slowing you down, it fires you right up, hitting you with a jolt of pure energy and focus, more like a strong cup of coffee than a sleeping pill. And on top of all that, it earned itself one of the most shocking and controversial names in all of cannabis, a name that a certain famous rapper supposedly gave it. This is the story of green crack. So let's start with what this strain actually does, because the energy is the whole point. Green crack is a sativa-dominant strain, and it's basically the poster child for energizing, uplifting, daytime weed. While most strains gently pull you toward relaxation and sleep, green crack does the complete reverse. It delivers this sharp, invigorating, uplifting head high that leaves you feeling wide awake, focused, and genuinely ready to get things done, without that heavy, sleepy body feeling. People reach for it first thing in the morning or in the afternoon when they need a boost to stay productive and creative through the day. It's the anti-couch lock strain, the one you smoke when you've got a whole day ahead of you and things you actually need to accomplish. And that intense, almost caffeinated energy is exactly where its wild name comes from. Because this strain was not always called green crack. Originally, it went by a much more low-key name. It was simply called Kush, spelled with a C, not to be confused with the more famous Kush, spelled with a K. That was the name the original growers actually used for it. A quiet, humble little name for a clone that got passed around by hand from grower to grower. But that energizing punch it delivered was so intense and so much stronger than people expected that it eventually earned itself a much crazier, much more shocking, and much more memorable nickname. And that brings us to the most famous story about this strain, the one involving Snoop Dogg. Because the popular story goes like this. Back in the early 2000s, a sample of this energizing Kush made its way to Snoop Dogg himself. And supposedly, Snoop tried some of it, got absolutely hit with that intense, buzzing, can't-sit-still energy, and decided that all the regular weed slang just didn't capture how powerful it was. So the story goes that he gave it a brand new name, one that described just how powerfully stimulating and Moorish it was: green crack. And because Snoop is one of the most influential voices in all of weed, the story goes that the name instantly stuck and spread everywhere he took it. But now I have to be really honest with you, because this story is not actually confirmed. The truth is, there is no solid proof that Snoop Dogg ever named this strain. There's no interview, no video, no quote where he actually says he did it. When you actually trace the story all the way back to its source, it comes from a single grower telling a second-hand tale about another guy, a grower nicknamed Buns, who supposedly was selling weed to Snoop at the time. And even the person actually telling that story tacks on the phrase, "if you believe it," right at the end. On top of that, some of the biggest, most trusted cannabis sources don't even mention Snoop at all when they talk about this strain. So the honest way to put it is this: the Snoop Dogg naming story is a legend, not a documented fact. It's a great story, and it's a real part of how this strain became famous, but nobody can actually prove it happened. And no matter who came up with it, that name has caused a lot of controversy. Because the word crack obviously refers to harder substances, and a lot of people in the cannabis community genuinely dislike that. They feel it plays right into the ugly, negative stereotypes about drugs that the entire legal weed industry has spent years and years trying to move away from. Some people connect it directly to the very dark history of the epidemic and the harsh, deeply unfair drug laws that came out of that era. So because of all of that baggage, a lot of people in the community flat out refuse to even use the name. Dispensaries and growers will very often sell the exact same strain, but deliberately call it Kush or Green Kush, just to sidestep the whole uncomfortable issue. And the original breeder himself reportedly always preferred the name Kush and wasn't a fan of the flashier, more shocking rebrand at all. To him, it was always just Kush. So that raises the big question. Where did this strain actually come from in the first place? And this is where we have to clear up something about the title, because, honestly, green crack is often called a strain from the 1970s. But the strain itself, the actual green crack we know, was most likely bred much later than that, sometime around 1990, by a low-profile grower who mostly kept to himself. So it's not really a 70s strain on its own, and anybody stating that as a hard fact is stretching it. But the 70s part of the story isn't totally wrong either, and it all comes down to what it's made from. Because the one thing everybody agrees on is that green crack comes from a legendary parent strain called Skunk Number 1. And Skunk Number 1 is the genuine 70s icon in this story. It was created back in that decade out in California, and it was one of the first truly stable, famous hybrid strains ever made, going on to become the genetic backbone of countless strains that came after it. So when people call green crack a 70s strain, what's actually true is that its roots, its whole heritage, trace straight back to that 170s legend. Green crack basically took that classic skunk energy and refined it into something even more sharp and stimulating. So the 70s label really points to its bloodline, not its birthday. Now the exact rest of its genetics are a bit murky, and I want to be upfront about that. Some say green crack is Skunk Number 1 crossed with a mystery indica. Others think it's more of a specific, carefully hand-picked version of the Skunk Number 1 plant itself, selected for that special energy. But the truth is, like a lot of older strains born in the underground during Prohibition, the precise recipe was never written down or fully documented, so nobody can really say for certain anymore. What we do know is that it started as a clone-only strain, meaning it was spread by cuttings passed from grower to grower rather than sold as seeds. It was so sought after and so hard to get that at one point, someone reportedly paid $2,500 just to get their hands on a single clone of it. That's how badly people wanted this exact plant. So let's talk about that famous flavor, because it's a big part of the strain's appeal. Green crack is often called the mango strain, known for a sharp, tangy, sweet, fruity taste with a real tropical citrus vibe. But I'll be honest and give you the fuller picture here. While that fruity mango note is definitely there and definitely part of its charm, if you look at what people who actually smoke it report most, the classic skunky flavor from its skunk parent tends to come through the strongest, followed by that citrus, with the mango coming in third. So it's fruity and tangy for sure, but it's got that earthy, pungent skunk backbone running right underneath it all, which makes total sense given where it actually came from. And when you put that flavor together with the effects, you get a serious, daytime favorite. That bright, energizing high, combined with that sweet, tangy, skunky citrus taste, made green crack an absolute go-to strain for people who wanted to stay active, social, and clear-headed all day long. But it is worth a fair warning, because it is such a strong, stimulating sativa. For people who are sensitive to that racing kind of energy, or who take too much, it can tip over from good energy into anxiety or racing thoughts. It's a strain that respects a little bit of moderation. So all of that combined turned green crack into a genuine modern classic. It became one of the most popular and instantly recognizable energizing strains on the entire market, practically defining the whole idea of a wake and bake, get up and go daytime sativa in the first place. But don't just take my word for it, because it picked up some real recognition, winning and placing in serious cannabis competitions, and even getting named one of the best strains of the year by a major music magazine, which famously compared it to a strong cup of coffee. And on top of all that, it became a popular parent strain itself, getting crossed with all kinds of other strains to create a whole big family of energizing descendants. So at the end of the day, Green Crack is a strain built on a great buzz and an even better story. It took the energy of a genuine 1970s legend and sharpened it into one of the most invigorating daytime strains around. It picked up a shocking, controversial name that may or may not have come from Snoop Dogg, and honestly, that mystery is a big part of its legend. And whichever name you land on, the strain speaks for itself. Whether you call it Green Crack or you call it Kush, it remains the strain people reach for when they want energy instead of sleep. It's proof that sometimes the wildest name and the fuzziest history belong to the most beloved weed of all.